Crystal clear waters and pristine white beaches stretched as far as the eye could see at the Azure Cove Resort. The kind of exclusive getaway where celebrities and tech moguls paid upwards of $2,000 a night to escape prying eyes. A sanctuary where affluent guests expected nothing less than perfection. But on the morning of May 17th, the tranquility of this island paradise shattered. Yellow police tape fluttered in the gentle ocean breeze. Local authorities in their crisp uniforms moved with urgent purpose across the meticulously maintained grounds. Confused guests whisper behind raised hands, while resort staff maintain poise, practice smiles that fail to mask their anxiety. Something had gone terribly wrong in Villa 16, the resort's premier accommodation, perched on a secluded cliff overlooking the azure waters below. It was the same villa where, just days earlier, newlyweds James and Allison Wilson had been photographed toasting their new life together with champagne and sunset kisses. What transformed this romantic retreat into a crime scene? What happened behind those elegant wooden doors that caused even veteran investigators to pause upon entry? Before we continue with this shocking case, take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring you more of these detailed true crime stories every week. To understand the events that unfolded at Azure Cove, we need to understand James Wilson himself. 45 years old at the time of the incident, James wasn't born into wealth or connections. The son of a high school math teacher and a nurse from Sacramento, he showed early promise with computers, building his first program at 13 and selling it to a local business for $500. After graduating from Berkeley with a computer science degree in 1999, James joined several tech startups during the first dot-com boom, learning valuable lessons as most of them failed spectacularly. Unlike many of his peers who retreated after the bubble burst, James saw opportunity in the wreckage. In 2003, with $50,000 borrowed from his parents' retirement fund and a small office above a Thai restaurant in Palo Alto, he launched what would become Horizon Technologies. The company began by developing security software for small businesses. Nothing revolutionary, but solid, reliable products that generated steady income. James worked 18-hour days, sleeping on a futon in his office and showering at a nearby gym. "I wasn't trying to change the world back then," he once told Tech Innovator magazine. "I just wanted to build something that wouldn't collapse under me." The turning point came in 2008 when Horizon Technologies developed an innovative data encryption system that caught the attention of major financial institutions. Within 3 years, Horizon's client list included 4 of the nation's top banks and a growing roster of healthcare providers. By 2015, the company employed over 300 people in their sleek headquarters in downtown San Francisco. Throughout this meteoric rise, James maintained a reputation for exacting standards. Former employees described working environments where good enough simply didn't exist. One programmer who left after 2 years told a tech blog, "James wouldn't just point out mistakes. He'd rewrite your entire code overnight to show you how it should be done." To the public, James Wilson represented the American dream. Self-made, innovative, bold. Industry publications featured him alongside other tech visionaries. He spoke at conferences about cybersecurity and digital privacy. His TED Talk on data protection garnered over 3 million views. The camera loved his confident smile, casual but expensive attire, and articulate explanations that made complex topics accessible. But colleagues knew a different James, one who canceled vacations for product launches, expected emails to be answered at 2 a.m., and viewed personal time as a luxury for people without vision. His executive team learned to recognize the slight twitch in his left eye that signaled building frustration, a warning to prepare for perfectionistic storm about to erupt. Rebecca Turner met James Wilson in 2005 at charity auction for the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. He was still an unknown entrepreneur then, and she was completing her master's in art history. Friends who attended the event recalled how the usually reserved James couldn't take his eyes off the auburn-haired woman confidently outbidding collectors twice her age for an emerging artist's painting. "I paid 3 months of rent to win that bid," Rebecca later joked in interviews. "But I got the painting and the man." They married in 2007 in a modest ceremony at a Napa Valley vineyard, just before Horizon Technologies secured its breakthrough contracts. As James built his tech empire, Rebecca established herself in the art world, first as a curator at prominent galleries, then as an independent consultant for wealthy collectors looking to build meaningful portfolios. Their early years together showed all the hallmarks of a power couple in the making. They purchased their first home in the Pacific Heights neighborhood of San Francisco, a Victorian they painstakingly restored together on weekends. Photos from this period show them laughing, paint splattered, surrounded by renovation chaos. Friends described them as complementary forces, his analytical precision balanced by her creative intuition. By 2012, as Horizon Technologies expanded internationally, the first fractures in their relationship appeared. James's work schedule intensified, with business trips stretching from days to weeks. Rebecca, meanwhile, had transformed from art consultant to gallery owner, opening Turner Contemporary in downtown San Francisco, a space that quickly gained recognition for showcasing innovative West Coast artists. "We became ships passing in the night," Rebecca confided to her close friend and gallery partner, Diane. "We'd text each other from different countries more often than we spoke face-to-face." Their Christmas cards told the story. In 2010, they posed together on a sailboat in Greece. By 2015, separate photos were stitched together. James at a tech conference in Tokyo, Rebecca at her gallery opening in Los Angeles. They maintained appearances at necessary social functions, but observant friends noticed the increasing space between them at dinner parties. The way conversations once filled with shared jokes became polite exchanges about schedules. Rebecca built her own thriving social circle among artists, collectors, and cultural influencers, while James surrounded himself with tech entrepreneurs and investors. When they did host gatherings together at their Pacific Heights home, now expanded to include a dedicated art space, guests often commented on the stark division. Tech executives clustered around James in his home office, creative types gravitating to Rebecca in the gallery wing. "I think we both retreated into worlds where we felt understood," Rebecca later told investigators. "I stopped trying to explain my passion for obscure installation art. He stopped trying to make me care about data encryption protocols." The final disconnect came in 2016, when Rebecca was invited to curate a major exhibition in New York that would require 6 months on the East Coast. James, preparing for Horizon's IPO, couldn't or wouldn't make time to visit. By the time she returned to San Francisco, their 15-year relationship existed primarily on paper. Allison Parker walked into Horizon Technologies' headquarters in January 2019 with an impressive resume and unmistakable determination. At 28, she had already worked as an executive assistant for 2 prominent CEOs in the tech industry. Her references describe her as exceptionally detail-oriented, resourceful under pressure, and capable of anticipating needs before they're expressed. Born and raised in Portland, Oregon, Allison graduated with honors in business administration from Stanford University. Former classmates describe her as intensely focused, the student who color-coded her calendar and organized study groups that consistently outperformed the class curve. What wasn't apparent from her meticulously crafted resume was her unwavering ambition. Allison didn't want to remain an assistant. She viewed the position as a masterclass in executive leadership, a chance to observe success up close. Human Dynamics, the recruiting firm that placed Allison with Horizon Technologies, later shared that she specifically requested James Wilson during her placement interview. "I want to work with someone building something extraordinary," she reportedly told a recruiter. "Someone with vision who needs a partner who can execute." From her first week, Allison distinguished herself. While James's previous assistants had managed his calendar with competence, Allison reorganized his entire workflow, creating systems that maximized his productivity. She quickly learned his preferences, from how he took his coffee to which investors required personal calls versus emails. She studied Horizon's products until she could discuss technical specifications with confidence. "It was like having a mind reader," James later told a colleague. "She finished sentences I hadn't even started." As Horizon prepared to launch a new enterprise security platform, the office lights burned late. James and Allison often found themselves alone, surrounded by empty desks and takeout containers. Their conversations, initially strictly professional, gradually expanded. She asked thoughtful questions about his vision for the company. He found himself curious about her ambitions beyond her current role. By March, these late nights evolved into working dinners at upscale restaurants near the office. "We need proper fuel to think clearly," James would justify as they settled into corner tables at establishments where servers recognized him on sight. The receipts, charged to the company account, showed these meals often lasted 3 hours or more. Colleagues noticed subtle changes. Allison began attending executive meetings, ostensibly to take notes, but increasingly offering insights that caught James's attention. He referenced her suggestions in subsequent discussions. When an executive questioned her growing influence, James dismissed concern. "She sees angles the rest of you miss." Rebecca, focused on preparing for an international exhibition, barely registered a new name that increasingly peppered James's brief calls home. "Allison thinks we should restructure the development team." Allison found a critical flaw in the contract. Allison suggested a weekend strategy session in Monterey. If you're finding this story intriguing, help our channel by hitting the like button. Your engagement helps more people discover these compelling true crime narratives. The exact moment when the professional boundary dissolved remains unclear. Emails obtained during the subsequent investigation show a telling progression. In February 2019, they were addressed "Dear Mr. Wilson" and signed "Regards, Allison." By April, they began with James and ended with "Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, A." June communications included private jokes and references to conversations had outside office hours. The first documented evidence of their personal relationship comes from hotel records. A weekend strategy session in Napa Valley featured one reserved room, not two. Security footage showed them arriving Friday evening and departing Sunday afternoon, James's hand resting comfortably at the small of Allison's back as they walked to his Tesla. What began in California wine country accelerated during a July trip to New York for investor meetings. Photographs recovered from James's cloud storage show them in his hotel suite overlooking Central Park, champagne glasses raised toward the camera. In another, Allison wears his dress shirt and nothing else as she gazes at the Manhattan skyline. The timestamps indicate these images were captured between scheduled business appointments. They became remarkably skilled at compartmentalization. Monday morning executive meetings would proceed with perfect professionalism after weekends documented in increasingly intimate photographs. Allison maintained cordial relationships with other executives' assistants, joining lunch gatherings where she deflected questions about her personal life with practiced vagueness. James justified the affair in fragments of conversation captured in texts. "My marriage ended years ago in everything but name," he wrote to Allison in August. "Rebecca and I barely occupy the same universe anymore." Like many involved in workplace relationships with power imbalances, he constructed a narrative that minimizes betrayal while maximizing his unhappiness in his existing relationship. For her part, Allison appeared to genuinely believe their connection transcended the typical office romance. "No one understands you like I do," she texted him after a particularly successful product launch. "We're building something revolutionary together, professionally and personally." Psychologists who later reviewed their communications noted classic patterns of workplace affairs. The intensity born from shared professional challenges, the false sense of deep understanding that comes from operating in the same environment, and the addictive validation loop created when admiration flows in both professional and personal channels. By September 2019, James had created a separate phone with a secure messaging app for their communications. They established rules: no displays of affection at work, separate transportation to and from the office, and careful documentation of their legitimate business interactions to justify their time together. Their caution extended to social media, where neither acknowledged the other outside of official company posts. Yet privately, they compiled hundreds of photos documenting weekend getaways to coastal hideaways and mountain retreats, a digital scrapbook of a relationship hidden in plain sight. What they couldn't hide was a subtle shift in James's decision-making. Board members noted his increasing willingness to approve expanded travel budgets when Allison would accompany him. He restructured reporting lines so that concerns about her growing influence would reach him first rather than other executives. when the chief financial officer questioned a weekend emergency strategy retreat at a luxury resort in Hawaii, James removed him from the communication chain for future travel approvals. By December 2019, as Horizon Technology prepared for its most successful year-end ever, James made two significant decisions: to divorce Rebecca and to promote Allison to chief of staff, a newly created position with substantial authority and compensation nearly triple her previous salary. James Wilson approaches marriage dissolution like any other project, methodically, strategically, and with careful attention to optics. In January 2020, he consulted with Thomas Blackwell, a divorce attorney known for representing high-net-worth clients with minimal public exposure. Their initial meeting lasted 4 hours, during which James outlined his requirements: speed, discretion, and a settlement generous enough to discourage Rebecca from asking uncomfortable questions. "I don't want a drawn-out battle," meeting notes recorded James saying. "Make it fair enough that she won't need to dig into company financials or my recent travel schedules." Blackwell advised filing on grounds of irreconcilable differences, the least contentious option that required no specific accusations from either party. He also recommended initiating conversations with Rebecca while she was immersed in professional commitments, noting that people tend to make expedient decisions when distracted by other priorities. Following this advice, James chose to bring up divorce during the week Rebecca prepared for her gallery's biggest exhibition of the year. On a rare evening when both were home, he delivered the news with practiced composure. "I think we both know this isn't working anymore," he told Rebecca, over dinner barely touched. "We become roommates at best. You have your world, I have mine." According to Rebecca's later account, her initial shock quickly gave way to resignation. The distance between them had grown so vast that his announcement felt almost inevitable, the formal acknowledgement of a relationship long dead. "I was more surprised by his timing than the news itself," she told friends afterward. Who starts a divorce conversation 3 days before their wife's career-defining exhibition opening? Nevertheless, Rebecca agreed to an amicable separation. With her gallery financially successful and her reputation in the art world solidly established, she approached the negotiations from a position of professional confidence, if not emotional readiness. The proposed settlement terms came swiftly. James offered Rebecca their Pacific Heights home, valued at $5.8 million, a cash payment of $3.2 million, and ongoing art acquisition funding for a gallery of $200,000 annually for 5 years. In exchange, he asked for an expedited process with minimal financial disclosure beyond what was legally required. Rebecca's attorney, Meredith Lawson, advised caution. "High-asset divorces typically involve comprehensive discovery," she noted in a memo, "particularly when one spouse runs a major corporation." But Rebecca, perhaps seeking emotional closure as much as financial settlement, instructed Lawson not to turn this into a battlefield. When James claimed the affair with Allison began only after he had initiated divorce proceedings, Rebecca accepted his timeline without verification. "I don't need to humiliate myself by demanding details about when exactly he fell in love with someone else," she told Lawson. The settlement was finalized in April 2020, remarkably quick by California standards. What Rebecca didn't request, and therefore never received, was a complete accounting of Horizon Technology's actual value, James's pending stock options, or access to company financial records that might have revealed troubling irregularities. She also never demanded access to James's travel records or photos, which would expose the actual timeline of his relationship with Allison. The divorce was granted officially on May 15, 2020, 3 months faster than the average uncontested divorce in California, a speed that later investigators would flag as suspicious. With the ink barely dry on his divorce papers, James Wilson began planning his future with Allison Parker. In their private communications, they referenced finally stepping into the sunlight and no more shadows. Allison, now officially Horizon's chief of staff, moved into James's new penthouse apartment in San Francisco's exclusive Millennium Tower. Their wedding plans reflected their desire for privacy rather than spectacle. Instead of the lavish Silicon Valley celebration typical of tech executives, they opted for an intimate ceremony at Castello di Vicarello, a 12th century castle converted to a luxury hotel in Tuscany, Italy. The guest list included just 28 people, primarily Allison's family and a handful of James's most trusted business associates. Notably absent were any executives who had worked with both James and Rebecca, or anyone who might have known the true timeline of their relationship. The ceremony took place on June 12, 2020, less than a month after James's divorce was finalized. Photos from the event show Allison in a sleek, modern gown by an Italian designer, hair arranged in a simple updo adorned with fresh flowers from the castle gardens. James wore a tailored charcoal suit with no tie. They exchanged vows on a stone terrace overlooking rolling vineyards as the sun set over the Tuscan hills. "It was always about intimacy for us, not showing off," Allison told a friend who questioned the rushed, modest ceremony. "We wanted to start our life together, not waste time planning some extravagant party." For their honeymoon, they selected the exclusive Azure Cove Resort, a collection of just 20 private villas on a remote island in the South Pacific. Each villa featured a private infinity pool, dedicated staff, and complete seclusion. At $2,500 per night for their cliff-top accommodation, it represented the luxury they felt they deserved after months of secrecy. Social media posts from the first 5 days of their honeymoon painted the picture of blissful newlyweds. James, typically reserved online, shared photos of sunrise yoga sessions on their private deck, elegant dinners on the beach, and snorkeling excursions to nearby reefs. Allison posted carefully curated images of champagne breakfasts and sunset embraces, each tagged with #ForeverWilson and #NewChapter. Behind these perfect images, they discussed ambitious plans. According to recovered emails drafted but never sent, James intended to restructure Horizon Technologies' leadership team, creating a new position for Allison that would effectively make her second in command. They explored potential investments in emerging tech startups and sketched ideas for a charitable foundation that would fund coding education in underserved communities. "We'll build something legendary together," James wrote in a document titled 5-Year Vision found on his laptop. "The company is just a beginning. What warning signs might Rebecca have missed?" Share your thoughts in the comments below. Could you spot a relationship breakdown before it reaches this point? On June 17, 2020, the 6th day of James and Allison's honeymoon, Rebecca Wilson was organizing files in her home office when her computer displayed a familiar notification: iCloud storage full. Though she and James had separated their digital accounts months earlier, this particular cloud storage had been created years ago for sharing family photos and household documents. Rebecca initially intended to simply delete her access. As she navigated through folders to ensure she wasn't losing anything important, she noticed a directory labeled HT_travel_2019, Horizon Technologies travel documentation from the previous year. "I almost closed it immediately," Rebecca later told investigators. "Then I saw a subfolder labeled Napa Weekend with a date that caught my attention. It was the same weekend James had canceled our anniversary dinner, claiming an emergency business situation. Her curiosity piqued. Rebecca opened the folder. Instead of business documents, she found dozens of intimate photos of James and Allison in a luxury suite at Meadowood Resort. For their honeymoon, James and Allison selected Azure Cove Resort, an exclusive retreat spanning a private island in the Maldives. Their accommodation, Villa 16, represented the pinnacle of luxury, a 3,500-square-foot overwater bungalow with infinity pool, glass floor panels revealing coral reef below, and a dedicated butler available 24 hours a day. The newlyweds arrived on July 1st, 2020, disembarking from a private seaplane directly onto the resort's wooden jetty. Staff greeted them with fresh coconut drinks and fragrant flower garlands. Their social media accounts, previously devoid of personal content, suddenly featured carefully composed images of tropical perfection. Allison in designer swimwear against azure waters, James relaxed and smiling in ways colleagues rarely witnessed, sunset dinners on private beaches. Finally living authentically, Allison captioned one image, a statement that would later take on unintended irony. Between snorkeling excursions and couple spa treatments, James continued to manage Horizon Technologies remotely. The 6-hour time difference meant he often woke before dawn, conducting video conferences while Allison slept. According to resort staff, he requested enhanced Wi-Fi capabilities and a secure connection to accommodate these calls. What wasn't visible in their carefully curated social media presence was James's increasing anxiety about the company's financial reports. Email records show multiple urgent exchanges with Horizon's financial team regarding quarterly projections and investor concerns about recent expenditures. Still, to all outward appearances, the honeymoon represented everything the couple had planned. They extended their original 7-day stay by an additional 4 days, requesting the same villa for their first anniversary, and many more to come, according to a note James sent to the resort manager. What warning signs might Rebecca have missed during her marriage to James? Were there clues about his relationship with Allison before it became romantic? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Rebecca Wilson had moved on. At least, that's what she told friends. With her divorce finalized and the gallery demanding her attention, she focused on rebuilding. She redecorated the Pacific Heights home, removing James's minimalist furniture in favor of pieces from local artists. She booked a solo trip to Japan to study traditional ceramics. She joined a hiking group that met at dawn on Saturdays, an activity James had always dismissed as pointless. The discovery happened by accident, while preparing a presentation on her laptop, formerly their shared computer. Rebecca noticed the cloud storage application continuously trying to sync. Irritated by the persistent notifications, she opened the program to disconnect it completely. That's when she saw it. JW Personal Archives still actively uploading data. James had failed to remove his account when transferring his digital life elsewhere. "I almost closed it immediately," Rebecca later told investigators. "Then I saw a folder labeled AP 2019, and something made me hesitate." The contents shocked her into stillness. Hundreds of photographs methodically organized by date and location. James and Allison in a Napa Valley hotel. James and Allison in New York. Intimate moments captured in luxury suites, on private boats, at secluded cabins. The oldest photos dated from February 2019, nearly a year before James initiated divorce proceedings, and directly contradicting his claim that the relationship began afterward. Rebecca scrolled through folder after folder, each revealing more extensive deception than the last. "It was like watching our marriage dissolve in reverse," she said. "While I was organizing gallery openings, they were building their relationship in every luxury hotel on the West Coast." Beyond the personal betrayal, Rebecca quickly recognized the legal implications. California's divorce laws treat financial disclosures as mandatory and material misrepresentations as potential fraud. The timeline of the affair wasn't just a personal wound. It fundamentally altered the legal framework of their settlement. Further exploration revealed more troubling patterns. Folders labeled business expenses contained receipts for weekend getaways, jewelry purchased for Allison, and extravagant dinners, all apparently charged to Horizon Technologies. A spreadsheet titled Option Calculations detailed stock allocation to Allison that seemed disproportionate to her official position and tenure. Rebecca contacted her attorney, Meredith Lawson, immediately. "The settlement was based on fraudulent information," she explained, forwarding select photos with corresponding dates. "He claimed their relationship began after our separation, but they were together almost a year before he filed for divorce." Lawson's assessment was blunt. "This constitutes material misrepresentation. We have grounds to petition the court to invalidate the settlement agreement and reopen financial discovery." But Rebecca wasn't thinking about legal strategies as she scrolled through more recent photos. A folder labeled Honeymoon caught her attention. Images of James and Allison at a stunning tropical resort, time-stamped just days earlier. The metadata showed the location, Azure Cove Resort, Maldives. "They're still there," Rebecca realized, checking the dates. "For 3 more days." That evening, Rebecca sat in her living room surrounded by printouts, flight schedules to the Maldives, a confirmation email for a last-minute booking at Azure Cove Resort, and a detailed statement from her attorney outlining potential criminal charges for financial misrepresentation in a divorce proceeding. Friends later reported receiving concerning messages from Rebecca that night. "Justice doesn't wait for court dates," she wrote to her gallery partner. To another friend, "Sometimes you need to look someone in the eye when you expose their lies." By morning, Rebecca Wilson was on a flight to Mail International Airport, carrying only a small suitcase and a folder of damning photographs. The journey to Azure Cove required a determination that bordered on obsession. From San Francisco to Dubai, Dubai to Mail, then a wait for a chartered seaplane. 40 hours of travel fueled by a cocktail of betrayal, anger, and adrenaline. Rebecca arrived at the resort on July 9th at approximately 4:30 p.m. local time. Security footage shows her appearance markedly different from her usual polished gallery owner persona. Hair pulled back hastily, minimal makeup, wearing simple linen pants and a white blouse, practical clothes for extended travel rather than confrontation. At reception, she requested James Wilson's villa number, introducing herself as his business partner with urgent company information. The staff, trained to protect guest privacy, initially hesitated. Rebecca then produced her driver's license, pointing out her surname matched Mr. Wilson's. Family emergency, she added. His mother has been hospitalized. The young receptionist, later interviewed by authorities, made a critical decision. Rather than calling Villa 16 to verify Rebecca's story, she provided directions along the wooden walkway connecting overwater bungalows. Video from resort security cameras captured Rebecca's determined walk toward Villa 16. She paused momentarily at the door, straightened her posture, then knocked firmly. Approximately 20 seconds later, Allison opened the door, wearing a resort bathrobe, momentary confusion giving way to recognition and alarm. "You must be Rebecca," Allison said, according to her later statement. "James isn't here right now. He's at the—" "Save it," Rebecca interrupted, pushing past Allison into the villa. "I know exactly who you are and how long you've been sleeping with my husband." As investigators deepened their inquiry, the focus expanded beyond the confrontation in Villa 16. The financial documents Rebecca had brought revealed troubling patterns at Horizon Technologies. Forensic accountants discovered James had systematically misclassified personal expenses as business costs. Luxury vacations with Allison appeared in company records as strategic planning retreats or client relationship development. The diamond bracelet James gifted Allison for Christmas was listed as executive retention incentive. More significantly, they uncovered evidence that James had concealed millions in company assets during his divorce proceedings. A secondary account in the Cayman Islands contained substantial funds diverted from Horizon Technologies' main operating capital, money never disclosed to shareholders, tax authorities, or Rebecca's divorce attorneys. "We're looking at potential fraud on multiple levels," noted FBI financial crimes specialist Thomas Mercer. "Securities fraud, tax evasion, perjury in divorce proceedings, and potential embezzlement." Allison's involvement became increasingly apparent. Her rapid promotion from executive assistant to chief of staff coincided with unusual stock allocations granted without board approval. Several large transfers to her personal accounts directly followed key company transactions. Email records showed she frequently advised James on how to structure expenses to avoid scrutiny. "She wasn't just a romantic partner," explained prosecutor Lane Norton. "Evidence suggests she was an active participant in financial impropriety." The investigation revealed a pattern of both personal and professional deception so intertwined they became indistinguishable, a relationship built on shared secrets that extended far beyond their affair. The legal aftermath unfolded on multiple fronts. Rebecca Wilson was extradited to the United States and charged with manslaughter. Her legal team constructed a defense around temporary emotional distress and diminished capacity, resulting from the traumatic discovery of extensive betrayal. After 18 months of legal proceedings, she accepted a plea agreement that included 5 years in prison with eligibility for parole after 3 years. Allison Parker, once released from the hospital, faced her own legal battle. Federal prosecutors charged her with conspiracy to commit securities fraud, tax evasion, and obstruction of justice. Evidence suggested she had deleted company files and attempted to access offshore accounts hours after James's death. She eventually accepted a plea deal with a 7-year sentence. Horizon Technology stock value plummeted 43% in the week following James's death as details of financial misconduct emerged. The board appointed an interim CEO who initiated a comprehensive audit and restructuring. 3 executive team members who had enabled or overlooked James's financial manipulations resigned. The company eventually stabilized but never regained its former market position. The human cost extended far beyond legal consequences. James's elderly parents lost their only child and faced uncomfortable questions about the character of the son they had proudly supported. Rebecca's promising career as a gallery owner collapsed under the weight of negative publicity. Her eventual release from prison would offer freedom, but not restoration of her former life. Allison's family maintained public support for her, even establishing a website claiming she was manipulated by James rather than a willing participant in fraud. Their unwavering belief in her innocence created tension with objective evidence, illustrating how families construct narratives that preserve their emotional connections despite contradictory facts. Psychologists analyzing the case identified common patterns in workplace affairs involving power differentials. Dr. Lauren Matthews noted, "When professional and personal boundaries blur, ethical compromises often follow. The initial thrill of forbidden connection creates a bond strengthened by shared secrets." Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Robert Tanner observed, "The gradual escalation is particularly notable here. Each small deception made the next one easier. By the time they were falsifying company records, the behavior likely felt justified rather than criminal." Perhaps most striking was how three successful individuals, each intelligent and accomplished, created a tragedy from commonplace beginnings. A failing marriage, workplace attraction, and financial ambition combined to destroy careers, families, and ultimately a life. The investigation into James Wilson's death uncovered much more than the events in Villa 16. It revealed the fragile nature of ethical boundaries, the self-deception that enables betrayal, and how quickly lives built over decades can disintegrate through seemingly small decisions that compound over time. This case shows how quickly lives can unravel. Subscribe and share this video with others who appreciate thoughtful crime storytelling. If you found this analysis compelling, click the notification bell to be alerted when we release our next in-depth investigation.